This is scary. You ever heard about the prophecy of the popes?
People don't realize how much knowledge is actually kept secret in the Vatican archives.
In 1853, the church uncovered a hidden tomb beneath St. Peter's Basilica.
But rumored to be down there is the Spear of Destiny, the Ark of the Covenant is supposed to...
There are letters from famous figures ranging from Abraham Lincoln to Mary, Queen of Scots.
The Vatican is likely the most corrupt institution in our world.
He said that there's 53 miles worth of shelving.
Just old documents. They hold proof of ancient gods with advanced technology.
Welcome back to another episode of Stranger Chaos. This is episode 5. And tonight we're diving down the Vatican. What secrets do they have? What's in those archives?
People don't realize how much knowledge is actually kept secret in the Vatican archives. 85 kilometers of shelf space, 35,000 volumes of catalogs, logging over 1,200 years worth of records. By 2018, it claimed to hold the equivalent of 180 terabytes of data, said to mainly store documents relating to the Pope, internal accounts of the Church, and other significant historic records. But up until 1881, no one but the Pope's inner circle was even allowed inside, so who knows what's really hidden down there. Even today, the secret archive is not accessible to the public, but only to certain scholars and under the most bizarrely specific conditions that you could imagine. First of all, any living pope needs to have been deceased for over 75 years before any documents collected during his time become available. Then, only academics who undergo a very thorough vetting process are allowed access, and also need to request special permission to anything they want to look at. That can take months and may not always get granted. And even then, they wouldn't be able to just walk through and browse the archives to find what may be of interest. No, you need to specifically request the exact documents that you want to look at without ever stepping inside. Can you see how that might be an issue? 85 kilometers of shelf space. That's 2 marathons and would take the average person about 16 hours to fully walk through. Yet, they're required to request exactly the volumes they want to study from this monumental catalog without actually looking through it. And if we don't know certain volumes even exist, there's no way anyone can ask for it. Meaning, there is a lot of text down there that we will never know about. I'm not saying they're hiding secrets of, Atlantis or the end of the world in these archives. Also not completely denying that they might be. But 35,000 volumes is an astronomical amount of information, and if they ever did want to keep something a secret, this would be the best place to hide it.
What do you believe is hidden in the Vatican files? Do you believe that they have the secrets to the unknown?
Lucifer isn't in hell, but locked under the Vatican. In 1853, the church uncovered a hidden tomb beneath St. Peter's Basilica. Inside, a black coffin, wrapped in 7 chains, covered in 72 symbols, each one tied to a demon from the Ars Goetia. The church believed those symbols weren't decoration, they were containment. And each time the world fails, war, famine, corruption, a chain breaks. One snapped in 1914, another in 1945, then 1968, and again in 2001. Only 3 remain. The Vatican denies the tomb exists, but deep beneath Rome, Lucifer is moving.
Although that's interesting, I think that's a little far-fetched. I believe that Lucifer, the beast, is tied to CERN, and that's the bottomless pit that the angel will open with the keys. That time has not come yet, and we'll get into that. We dove into Revelation on that last video. That's not even an episode, that was straight from HFC. Because of the times we're living in, I wanted to bring that video to this channel for those of you who have not seen it. And now, look, we're diving into the Vatican. All right, now what are your thoughts? Do you believe that underneath the Vatican, Lucifer is held there?
What if the most dangerous truth came from Lucifer himself? The Vatican kept a sealed record called Index Damnatus. It contains Lucifer's final words before his tomb was sealed shut. A priest asked, "Why do you hate humanity?" Lucifer smiled. "I don't. I only water what was already growing." As the final chain was locked, he whispered, "Come back in 100 years and tell me who deserved the chains."
But rumored to be down there is the Spear of Destiny, the Ark of the Covenant is supposed to be down there.
What is the Spear of Destiny?
That is the Spear of Destiny, or the Holy Lance, was with the Roman soldier pierced Christ when he was on the cross. That's the Spear of Destiny. That was something that Hitler was very interested in finding. Hitler was chasing these artifacts all over the place. As soon as the Nazis conquered France, they started digging everywhere, like the Chartres Cathedral was where the Ark was supposed to be. They were digging up everywhere looking for stuff. It's like Indiana Jones got a lot of those things right. My favorite object that's supposed to be down there is called the chronovisor. And this is an object that lets you see through time.
The Vatican Secret Archives. This area of the Vatican serves as a massive storage space for many documents that we have no clue what they are. It's the largest known collection of Catholic books and literature. There are letters from famous figures ranging from Abraham Lincoln to Mary, Queen of Scots. These documents range all the way back to the 8th century. Most of the documents are located underground with over 53 miles of shelves. It is forbidden for anyone to enter unless you have special access. Even with special access, there are multiple limitations on what you can actually see. Something kind of interesting is the current Pope Francis has announced next year he's going to allow documents to be accessed from the secret vault. These documents are related to Pope Pius and his connection to Hitler during World War II. There are so many conspiracy theories on what could actually be in these secret archives. They range from aliens, Illuminati, predicted apocalypse, and even the missing chronovisor. Like and follow for more videos like these.
I for one, would love to go down there and explore. I literally would get lost reading all these manuscripts and uncovering all these rabbit holes. It would be nuts, right? Would you go to the Vatican and explore what's hidden beneath there? And what are your thoughts on the Vatican so far?
The Vatican is likely the most corrupt institution in our world. The Vatican is no stranger to murder, child trafficking, drug trafficking, sex exploitation, and cover-ups. Arguably one of the most famous basilicas in the world, underneath it lies a mass graveyard. So located about 5 stories beneath the basilica is actually another temple dating back to the Roman Empire. That's over 2,000 years of dead bodies. If you're wondering if those bodies are of Christians or Catholics, they're not. It was actually used for pagans. And here are some of the mosaic tiles that they found beneath the Vatican in the temple that it's built on top of. So here's a quote from one of the popes. "I believe that the church not only should apologize to the person who is gay, whom it has offended, but it has to apologize to the poor, to the exploited women, to children exploited for labor. It has to ask forgiveness for having blessed many weapons." That's a little ironic considering what the Vatican has done to make sure that it's always protected and people never expose them. This is Pope John Paul I, and he died 33 days after his election. Now, the conspiracy around his death is that he found out the Vatican was laundering mass amounts of money, and he was going to rectify the situation of getting rid of everybody in the Vatican that was corrupt. His plans were announced straight after he became the Pope, and he died 33 days later. In 2015, it was uncovered that 2 cases of child were found within the Vatican walls. And get this, Not everybody involved was named, only a couple names took the blow for everybody else in the Vatican. And then the year before that, the government actually intercepted 3 deliveries directed to the Vatican, all containing drugs. Cocaine was found in condoms inside of these 3 deliveries that were intercepted. They were handed over to the Vatican in hopes that somebody within the walls would disclose who this was going to, but nobody came forward. This is St. Peter's obelisk, and not a lot of people know where it comes from. One of Rome's cruelest emperors, Caligula, actually stole this from one of Egypt's cities, Heliopolis. He stole it from Egypt and he transported it to Rome, and you know what he did with it? It was used to murder and execute Christians. They would round up every single Christian that they could find, chain them, bound them, bring them to the obelisk, and brutally murder them. Vatican books is called the Grand Grimoire or the Red, and this book is about black magic. It harnesses spells and rituals, but many believe this is the book that they use to summon the devil when they are selling their souls. Kind of like the Book of the Illuminati. The conspiracies of the Vatican can go on and on and on. It's truly a never-ending cycle. One thing we do know, the people in the Vatican are evil and corrupt. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!
The Red Dragon is a very interesting grimoire. I don't recommend any of you to purchase these grimoires and read it for yourselves because you curse yourself, your families, and your homes. So don't do it. I've done a video on it, exploring it. This way, you're safe. All right?
I want to talk a little bit about the Vatican archives. In the 1920s, there's a Russian professor, his name was Gingrich Ludwig. He was able to have access to the archives. He said that there's 53 miles worth of shelving in the archives. He also reported that there are 35,000 catalogs, basically like books. He walked up on this one section, which was, he called it the alien section, and he came across star people,
creatures,
or angels, or people from space coming down in crafts. Like these books talked about how these star people taught all the ancient civilizations. They taught how to build the pyramids and taught the Mayans things and like all this crazy stuff. And then he writes down that these things had these weapons, and today we're like, those are nuclear weapons. It talked about how they would use them, and I guess they used it once on Babylon, and it said that this weapon that these things possessed melted the walls of Babylon with the amount of energy and heat that they produce. And I'm just like, why are they hiding this stuff? It just seems like the Roman Catholic Church is a little bit of like the gatekeepers.
Yeah,
of
they're
like,
gatekeepy, that's what they are.
They've been hiding this from you. The Vatican archives aren't just old documents. They hold proof of ancient gods with advanced technology. But that's not even the craziest thing that was recently discovered. In leaked Vatican correspondence, there are hints of hidden texts saying, "These writings contain knowledge forbidden to the public." The archives have been guarded for centuries, so what are they hiding? This is where things get scary. In newly revealed whistleblower accounts, it's said that the Vatican archives aren't just historical records, but contain evidence of an advanced ancient civilization known as the Viracochas. The accounts specifically mention that the Viracochas, worshipped as gods, left behind documents and artifacts that detail advanced technologies and lost histories. However, once these documents were found, their contents were concealed, and the true history of the Viracochas was hidden to maintain the Church's control over historical narratives. This explains why access to the Vatican archives is so restricted and why the contents remain one of the world's most guarded secrets.
3 Knights Templar that were possessed by demons from King Solomon's ancient temple in Jerusalem? Why would the CIA unclassify the information now? Why was it classified in the first place?
Okay, so if this is true, it would confirm that demonic entities are real and that there's a connection between demons and cryptids. Not to mention, the Church used evil to fight evil.
Wait, what? What exactly do you mean?
Okay, so in 1296, during the height of the Middle Ages, Pope Boniface VIII faced what they called the unholy crisis. To combat the rise of monsters, demons, or even what many today would call cryptids, he assembled a covert task force unlike any the world had ever known. The deserters, derived from the Latin word for the Forsaken, were this elite trio of knights and the church's darkest secret, almost like today's Black Ops Special Forces operators, without the dark powers, of course. Their mission was simple, survival uncertain, and their very existence was blasphemy. The Forsaken Three were forever changed by forbidden knowledge they found under Solomon's temple during the Holy Wars. When their fellow Templars fell in battle, they were the only ones left standing. They used strange, dark powers that no one could explain. These powers made them unstoppable in fights, but also made the church see them as dangerous and unholy. What the knights didn't know was that a dying comrade had written down everything he saw about their powers. His report made its way to the leaders of the Vatican, who decided the knights were too dangerous to live. They were sentenced to death. But at the last minute, Pope Boniface VIII saw another way. He realized their dark powers could be useful, so he spared their lives on one condition. They had to promise to serve the church forever. Now working in secret for the Vatican, the Forsaken Three were given a new mission. They were sent to hunt monsters and other terrifying creatures that were causing chaos across the land. Their first task took them to a cursed town in Austria called Nachtsturm. People there were disappearing, and the few survivors spoke of horrors too terrible to imagine. Some said the creatures came straight from hell.
I absolutely believe that's valid. Come on, we went over the UFO bases hidden in the deserts. You know the Vatican knows about that. And you know what they're hiding too. Now that's an interesting point. These cryptids are tied to these demonic forces. They're using evil to combat evil. What are your thoughts there?
This is scary. You ever heard about the prophecy of the popes? It's a 12th century prophecy hidden in the Vatican's archives. You know, the library that's said to contain the deepest secret of the world. It claims to list every pope from the year 1143 right up to, guess who? Pope Francis, our current pope. But here's the terrifying part. It just stops. Right there. No pope after him, only 2 words. Judgment Day. Yeah, it sounds dramatic, but it just started getting weird. Inside St. Paul's Basilica, there's a spot for every pope's portrait, circling the sanctuary. But the design leaves only one empty slot after Pope Francis. They say that when that final spot is filled, it's the end. Simple as that. Now here's where it twists. So, according to the prophecy, the time between the first pope listed and the midpoint pope in 1585 was 422 years. Now add another 422 years from there, and you land on 2027. Coincidence? Think again. And if that wasn't enough, Pope John the 23rd himself supposedly said the end would come exactly 2,000 years plus Christ's lifetime. Do the math. You get, 2027, that's 3 times. 3 predictions, all pointing to the same year. That's not just a random guess, that's a countdown, and it's ticking.
We all know that nothing happens by coincidence. That's all planned.
Pope Francis's death was sudden, and he never spoke about the Vatican archives. But whatever he knew, he didn't want us to know. In the 1920s, a Russian professor named Genrikh Ludwig gained access to the Vatican archives, and what he discovered there left him in shock. He claimed the archives held over 53 miles of shelving and more than 35,000 documents. As he searched through them, one section in particular caught his attention, what he later called the aliens section. But this is where it gets scary. He came across old books and documents that talked about ancient aliens arriving in spacecrafts. These beings, according to the texts, taught early civilizations how to build incredible structures like the pyramids, and even passed down knowledge of advanced weaponry. Some of the documents went even further, describing weapons that we would recognize today as nuclear. One book described how one of these weapons was used on the ancient city of Babylon. It's being said that the weapon was so powerful that it melted the city's walls from the intense heat and energy it released. The Vatican archives hold even more secrets, far beyond what we can imagine. If you'd like me to share more documents or information, comment Vatican below.
The Vatican has been around for thousands of years, and they own some very weird stuff. Like the world's largest collection of exorcism books, including De Exorcisimis et Supplicantibus Quibutsum, the official instruction manual for performing exorcism. They also have a lot of body parts, like the blood of Pope John Paul II, the head of Saint Sienna, and the bones of over 90 popes, including the first pope, Saint Peter, allegedly. They're also said to own a lot of fantastical things, like the chronovisor, a time travel device, the Holy Lance, the spear that was used to pierce Jesus, and a lot of dinosaur bones, but again, none of these have ever really been proven. But the weirdest part of the Vatican is their archives, which has over 53 miles of shelf space that houses what? Well, a lot of historical treaties, execution paperwork, and even a letter from Michelangelo complaining that he hadn't gotten paid for painting the Sistine Chapel. While we may never know everything that's in the Vatican archives, they are working to publish and digitize more things every year. And if you want more interesting stories like this, you can subscribe to my newsletter. The link is in my bio.
Yo, I bet you that the Vatican has more secrets than the Epstein files. Heck, I bet the Epstein files are in the Vatican. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Let me lay it out for you. The very design of that audience hall, it's not just a coincidence. It's right there in front of your eyes. The shape, the architecture, all of it. You think it's just a beautiful hall, right? It's a serpent's mouth. And that's where it starts getting good. We're not talking about random symbolism here. We're talking about a deliberate design meant to reflect their true nature. The global elite manipulating the masses, speaking to us through that serpentine smile. They're not even hiding it. The truth is buried in the archives, right there in the Vatican. But who's looking? Certainly not the masses they've hypnotized.
But if it's that obvious, why aren't people questioning this?
Why indeed. You see, that's the brilliance of their design. Decades of narrative control have convinced people not to see what's right in front of their eyes. They've built this illusion so perfectly, so arrogantly, that even when you're staring at a literal reptilian structure, you just nod along, clap politely, and move on. And anyone who dares to challenge it, they're instantly silenced, discredited, brushed aside as lunatics. It's a system built to keep you right where they want you. But the red pill moment, it's right here. Once you see the serpent, you can't unsee it. That's the power they fear the most. So why is the design a proof of control? Due to the fact that so few have noticed? That's just more proof of how deep this manipulation goes. It's time people wake up and see it for what it is.
Hidden in the Vatican, they have a huge amount of secrets. It is possible they would have the Ark of the Covenant. Nobody knows where it went.
A drone flew over the Vatican and captured something no one was ever meant to see. What it found is sending shockwaves around the world. Hidden for centuries, the secrets of the Vatican are finally coming to light. From mysterious artifacts to uncharted tunnels, these chilling discoveries challenge everything we thought we knew about the Holy City. Stick around as we unravel the mysteries hidden within the heart of the Vatican. 14. The Vatican Bank. Recently, a drone made a chilling discovery in the Vatican that no one was supposed to see, leaving even the Pope quite worried. This discovery led to Italian prosecutors detaining the former head of the Vatican Bank, marking yet another scandal for the Institute for Works of Religion, or IOR, commonly known as the Vatican Bank. Founded in 1942, the IOR is a secretive financial institution located in Vatican City, tasked with safeguarding property intended for religious and charitable works. Only top church officials and entities can make deposits. 5 cardinals oversee the bank and report directly to the Vatican's Secretary of State, adding to its mystique and nickname as the most secret bank in the world. But because of drone footage showing strange activity, Ettore Gotti Tedeschi, the bank's president, was ousted after a unanimous no-confidence vote. Ettore, who was hired in 2009 to rehabilitate the bank's reputation, was criticized for failing to perform his duties, often spending his time at Banco Santander in Milan instead. Ettore and the IOR were investigated for money laundering on 2 occasions, leading to JP Morgan Chase closing a Vatican account in Milan and Italian authorities seizing roughly $22 million from an account at Credito Artigiano Spa in 2010. Both Ettore and the bank denied any wrongdoing. 13. The Secret Archives. The Vatican Secret Archives, officially renamed in 2019 to Vatican Apostolic Archives, is one of the most intriguing and mysterious institutions in the world, with only a couple of drone photos providing a glimpse into its chronicles. Located within Vatican City, this vast repository houses the Holy See's historical records dating back more than 12 centuries. Despite its former name, the archives are not entirely secret. However, access is highly restricted and limited to qualified scholars who must apply for permission to study specific documents. The archives contain an estimated 53 miles of shelving with...
We need to do, if we're going to find out if the devil is at the Vatican, is take a tour underneath the Vatican. As we arrive underneath the Vatican, we see that it is laid out in a number of rooms marked by letters, as we can see in this aerial view map. Now we will be exploring some of the rooms in this map. Let's start off by looking in room C here. As we look into the room, we see that this is a mausoleum of a Lucius Tullius Zethus. The Vatican goes on and explains that this room was used for offerings to the dead. We read, view of the north wall and mosaic floor. In the corners of the mosaic floor there are 8 marble squares with circular holes through which offerings to the dead were poured during the funeral rites carried out in the burial chamber. So here we have a room where offerings are done to the dead. That's pretty common in Catholicism. Now if we look in the next room, room E, so here in this room they have a vase which has the image of a Medusa. So here underneath the Vatican we have a Medusa. Again, we ask ourselves the question, this is a vase, but yet it's kept underneath the Vatican. This could have easily been removed. If the Vatican was a holy church, you would think that they would have done this. You think underneath the Vatican they would have things that are sacred to Christ and not foreign gods, not idols and images of foreign gods. Now as we move down further to room H, here we see that this is the mausoleum that is one of the largest and most luxurious mausoleums underneath the Vatican of St. Peter's Basilica. It says that it was built at the beginning of the second half of the 2nd century during the reign of Emperor Marcus Aurelius and belonging to a freedman of the important Valeri family. And as we're in this mausoleum, we see that there's lots of idols from the old Roman Empire. We ask ourselves, why does Rome keep these idols down underneath St. Peter's Basilica? You would think if they were Christians, they would want to clean all this out. I can't imagine anybody who has a true church would keep idols in their churches, especially pagan idols left over from a bygone pagan era. But here we have the Vatican keeping many pagan idols underneath St. Peter's Basilica. Here is an idol the Vatican is displaying of a head of a child in gilded stucco and a lock of a hair typical of one initiated into the cult of Isis. And this particular idol is an idol of a boy who was initiated into the cult of Isis. If we look in this room, we see that some of the stucco decorating the walls. Here we have a personification of Oceanus. Remember, the New Testament book of Revelation says that a beast comes out of the ocean. And so we say, why is the Vatican having these foreign gods underneath its basilica? Why is it protecting them? If it was a true church, it couldn't be doing it for the sake of art, especially with all the evil things that are happening in the Vatican. And as the priest earlier said, that evil does exist, the devil is real, as he admitted. But the hypocrisy of all of this is that they have all these evil images and idols underneath the Vatican of St. Peter's Basilica. We also see 2 figures of genuses with bat wings also portrayed on the walls. Again, this is supposed to be a holy church and a holy place. Now this is supposedly all there for many, many years. As we move into the next room, room I, the details of the mosaic floor with Mercury and Pluto's chariot, they go on and explain that this theme is an explicit reference to the overcoming of death and the return of the afterlife. They describe it as a splendid mosaic floor of Mercury is depicted carrying a caduceus with wings at his ankles, walking in front, and a chariot carrying Pluto and his wife Persephone. So here we have all these Roman gods underneath the Vatican, images of foreign gods. Well, as we move to the next room, we find out why they keep all these idols down there in these images. As we move to room U, here we find the shock of all shocks. Here on the wall, it says there is a depiction of Lucifer, that is, the light bearer, the morning star. On the opposite of the wall, there is a drawing of Vesper, the evening star, cosmic symbol of the human life cycle. We find out that when we get to room U, here we have a clear depiction of Lucifer underneath the Vatican at St. Peter's Basilica. We ask ourselves, why are they keeping this image of Lucifer underneath the Vatican? Again, you would think if you're a Christian church, you would not want to have any of these images. Now we know that they'll go on and say, oh, well, we're saving it because it's a UNESCO heritage site or something like that. This is always their excuse, saving it for the sake of art. But for the true Christian, this is not an excuse, because we know if you're giving glory and propaganda to false deities and false pagan gods, what are you doing? You're in essence supporting the evil spiritual realm. This cannot be from God. And since Rome claims itself to be the one true church, you would think they would lead by example. But what kind of example is this? That you have a depiction of Lucifer underneath the Vatican for countless hundreds and hundreds of years? Now this image here underneath the Vatican has been there since their claim, which would be Constantine. We would know that he was the first one that built this basilica. And so again we ask ourselves, why are they keeping this depiction of Lucifer underneath the Vatican? Well, we think the answer for why all these images, idols, are kept underneath the Vatican is because what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with an apostate church that has always been apostate, and even now as it is filled with Freemasons. And so we know that the reason why they're keeping all of this there now, and they're actually revealing this on their internet website, is because they want people to see this. They want people to see what they're really all about. For the masses who believe that Rome is still a pure church, they don't mind deceiving them into believing that they are still a Christian church. As you go down underneath the Vatican, down into the next rooms, they will try to convince you on this tour that you take that Peter is buried down there in one of the rooms, and that this gives credence to following the Pope. But we ask the question, why would you want to follow a Pope who has all these evil things underneath his church? It's very clear by this depiction of Lucifer that the devil is in the Vatican. He's hidden way down underneath the Vatican at St. Peter's Basilica. Now, if you are a Catholic and you are watching this video, we want to encourage you to come out of that church. As you can see from these images and these idols that are kept underneath your church, we would hope that you would soberly think about these things and ask yourself the question, if my church is a true church, why is it promoting these things? Why does it even want people to see these things? We would hope that you would hear the exhortation of Revelation 18, verse 4, where it says, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, 'Come out of her, my people, that you may not participate in her sins, and that you may not receive of her plagues, for her sins have piled up as high as heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities.'" And
before we end this, I want to give you this one last video. because this video makes you question everything. Sometimes our friends and family, our coworkers, they don't believe us. They think we're insane. But there's a reason for that.
Who see too much eventually stop fitting in anywhere. In the beginning, you thought knowledge would make you stronger, that awareness would make you free. But then, you started to truly look. You recognized the masks, the manipulation, the games, and suddenly, you could no longer play along. Not because you didn't want to, but because you simply couldn't anymore. You see too much. While others engage in small talk, you see the emptiness behind it. While others trust the system, you see the strings they are hanging from. While others live happily in their illusion, you are a prisoner of the truth. Nietzsche warned of this. If you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. Too much truth isolates you. You no longer fit into groups that only speak of superficialities. You no longer fit into relationships built on lies. This is the price of clarity, loneliness. The deeper you think, the fewer places feel like home. You become a stranger in your own world, not because you have changed, but because you have stopped being blind. Once you have seen the truth, you can no longer close your eyes, even if darkness is the price you have to pay.
All right. So thank you for being here with me as we do this dive. Not a deep dive, but a dive. I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming from HFC. I appreciate you supporting both channels. And this is fun. I like the channel. It's fun. I like to dive down these conspiracies, these rabbit holes. Save HFC for the more serious note, right? All right. So until next time, Stranger Chaos out. Peace.